to me, there's no limits on how you can approach. You can draw the same thing 100 different ways. It could be the most ordinary thing. It could be a flannel shirt. You could draw that. If you only have one or two ways of drawing something, I'm not interested in your art.
I
That's just
gotcha.
my opinion. Like that's it.
Welcome back to the Comics Cube, everyone. Today I am joined by Eisner Award nominee Matt Lesniewski. How are you,
What's
Matt?
up? Good. How are you?
I'm good. So being nominated for an Eisner, what's that feel like?
Oh man, it's I'm still I I don't know. I'm still in disbelief, pretty much. I never would have imagined that I would even be thought of in 20, 30 years if I keep doing this, which I want to. So it's I
And
don't it when I got asked to I got sent an email from the publisher Ad House um, saying, "Hey, do you want to submit the freak?" Um, I was just like, I guess, but it's you know it's pretty much a waste of time. Like, there's no way. And then when I got the email back saying, yeah, they nominated it for this category, I, I don't know.
it's a surreal feeling, huh? Like, did you
It's a
ever
shocker.
imagine? You ever imagine, like, as a kid, like, how'd you get it? How did you get interested in this beloved medium?
Um, Comics were always around because my dad was a collector.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember like my earliest memory. Like I never found them on my own in any way. I didn't even kids in school. I don't think anybody read comics, so it was almost like a secret thing,
Yeah.
or at least I couldn't tell that anyone read them. So it was just like it was my own thing. But I remember being at the kitchen table about 3 or 4 years old. My dad had two um, long boxes, and I just remember him pulling out. He had like McFarlane Spider Mans, a lot of those. Um, he had Sergeant Rock. He was into that. I wasn't really into those.
I'm feeling a major age gap here because I grew up on McFarlane Spider-Mans.
There you go. I'm 27,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
I'm
Um,
I'm 38, so it's not a big
oh,
age.
okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, but I just remember those covers. That was probably the first thing that drew me in. I remember just seeing all the lines and the details and whatever that is. I need to be in on that. And so we would here and there, not often, but probably I didn't even have a ton of comics as a kid. I probably had maybe 100 to 200 over the span of being a kid. Just going to local comic shops,
where'd
but
you grow up? Where'd you grow up?
upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Um, so yeah, they were always around even before I could actually read. I I would be reading the pictures and kind of following the story and the artwork before I could actually read the dialogue or the captions or any of that. So I don't like I said I don't remember. It's just comics are a part of life from the beginning.
yeah,
Even my dad he wanted to draw comics too as like a 18, 19-year old, I think. And then he eventually got out of it. I mean, he thinks what I do is cool, but yeah, he was the fan first, so I didn't even have an option.
you ever
It was
wish you
just
got a
always
real?
there.
You ever wish you got a real job?
Well, I've had real jobs, so no, I'm glad I'm not doing those at the
No,
moment, at least.
but does your dad
Um,
wish you did?
oh no, 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 no.
Yeah,
No, he's proud. He's proud of it.
that's good.
He thinks it's cool.
That's good. So would you say it was McFarlane who triggered the urge to draw, or
I would have to say, because that's the earliest. Besides that, I would say Kelly Jones, the
Okay.
Kelly Jones Batman covers. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
recalling those, but I remember those really sticking out, and still to this day, I think he was doing something pretty interesting and unique.
Yeah,
And I just loved
nobody drew like Kelly Jones because nobody could draw like Kelly Jones.
exactly,
Right.
and I think just the way he distorted the characters and made them look kind of strange but still cool. Like
Yeah.
it's super detailed, and he'd use like McFarlane would use mostly the little squiggly lines and um, that kind of thing, but he would use a lot of heavy blacks. Kelly Jones.
Yeah.
So it was a little different, but I remember those were probably the two earliest that kind of drew my attention. Just the covers alone, like I would see them and oh, I need that. I whatever that is, I'm hooked.
Big giant
So
capes and just the feeling of general weirdness. I can kind of see that in your work.
yeah.
Which I have to say, when I was reading your work, those were not the artists I thought you were influenced by. Like
Uh,
I was looking at your work, and I was like, I can see Mobius and Crumb.
mm,
Is there any of that at all,
um,
or is that
I could
incidental?
see how you would say that. It's changed over the years. So I mean the McFarlane and those guys. It definitely that's part of it. Um, I feel like sometimes you don't choose what you're inspired by. So
Mhm.
like you could see a movie and you don't even remember the name of that, but it's something about a particular scene. It just does something to you, and you're like, oh, I'm going to incorporate that into a scene in my comic. So I might have, I'm sure I've seen plenty of Mobius. I mean,
Yeah, he's
he's
everywhere.
everywhere. Like,
Yeah,
what's that?
he's everywhere.
Yeah, he's everywhere. So of course I've seen him, but I don't have one Mobius comic or Crumb, but I do like both. I do really appreciate both. Um, but yeah, there are even besides them, there are tons of artists that I admire. Like there's new ones every day.
Yeah, it's
So
just reading your work. There is that surreal feeling of weirdness. It looks like it's based in realism,
mhm,
but then you just twist things and exaggerate just the right amount of things so that it doesn't look realistic.
right.
So that's very interesting to me. And that's pretty much how I actually would describe McFarlane's work. McFarlane knew exactly how to do that. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of a similar. In his, we both have different ways of doing that, but yeah, I'd say that description kind of fits both. So it probably stuck with me, even though I haven't read anything McFarlane now in recent times, and but I still respect what he's done. But
yeah.
I mean, now I go back and look at it, I'm like, not my favorite, but it's still cool. It's fun. I could
Well, I
say
mean,
that
yeah,
it's fun.
honestly, if your first favorite is your favorite forever, I mean, it just kind of
You're not
shows
growing.
you're not really growing. I mean,
Yeah,
you could still love the work, but
it's mostly nostalgic
yeah.
at this point. So
What's the freak about for the benefit of our viewers, who don't know what it's about?
okay, the freak. It's about well, in general, it's kind of a metaphor. So there is a story on the surface that you can follow if you just pick it up from the shelf and you're like, oh, what's this? But so the story that you can pick up on, I'm saying that because I've been told so many different interpretations of what people think it means or what it means to them. But it's basically about the ugliest man in the world, and he lives in this society where it's a slightly altered how would I say it? It's a slightly altered reality where ugliness or physical appearance is, if you're ugly, whatever that means. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, it's it's basically illegal. It's immoral. It's wrong. It's hated. And so all his life he's physically attacked because he's this ugly guy. He's the ugliest guy ever. And and so the story opens where he finally decides after a lifetime of, he's also a ditch digger
Yeah.
because he wants to be alone so that no one's around to beat me up. Um, but it opens up on him deciding, you know what, I'm gonna finally make a change. I'm gonna move to the big city and leave his small hometown. And oh well, no one will notice me there because it's just flooded with people. But he gets there and it's 10 times worse. So he gets beaten down by this mob of normal or good-looking people, or people are just disgusted. It's not just his appearance; it's his aura, his energy, his everything. He's just revolting in every way. But long story short, I'm not the best at elevator pitches. I'm just kind of giving you as if we're literally in an elevator. I'm like, hey, yeah, it's about this. So yeah, he gets beaten down by this mob, and they steal his trusty shovel, and
Yeah.
that's all he had. And so he has to track a trail of his own blood to find his shovel, and that's kind of where it opens. So it's hard to say more without,
Without spoiling it.
yeah.
Yeah. But there is a theme in that, which is isolation and
Sure.
uh and ostracization.
Right.
Isolation and the feeling of being an outsider that
Mhm.
I feel is actually prevalent in the works that I've read from you. How come you keep on you like going back to these themes?
I don't know. I mean, um I don't how should I say this? I don't you know sit down and construct a story like, I don't know how other writers do it for comics, but
Mhm.
I kind of think of real things going on in my mind, like real. Um, it must be a recurring theme in me in some way, in some sense, because I don't know. I just think of like a real problem or a real dilemma of some kind. It needs to come from reality in some way, and so I take that and then I kind of put it in this other world, in this other character. I kind of, because most of them are based on one. There's one main clear protagonist, whereas a lot of stories it's a group, or you've got one main character, then you got another one's introduced pretty soon. Most of mine are one, like one core character, but yeah, I don't know. I just think of like an idea I want to explore through a story, and so I kind of use a character and a situation and a different world to explore that theme or that idea. And so I don't know. It just keeps coming up. I don't know. It so what I'm saying is I don't like, I'm not finding the words right now. It's
I
like I said,
thought, yeah,
it's early, but
I thought it was, yeah, I thought it was just, a theme that you liked going back to and exploring.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say
Mhm.
that. It's just I would just say it's an organic thing. It's all based out of some core true thing, and then yeah, it all starts from that, and then I don't like come up with it manually.
Yeah,
Like, all right, I know I'm gonna do this, and then this is gonna happen, and this problem. No, it's all kind of organic. So
that's
I don't know if that
interesting.
answers it, but
That
I'll
is
try my best.
interesting because I've got, there was another interview I did with another comics writer who also tended to write about the disenfranchised. And when I pointed that out to him, he said, I didn't even notice that when but yeah, I do.
Right, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
I,
how much of comics writing is self-exploration, would you say?
for me, all of it. Like all of it. Like I can't just I can't just you know, like I said, I know now I'm going to do a horror comic and it's going to be about this and I'm going to just pull things out of a hat and make something out of that. I can't. It has to be rooted in some reality, or I have to relate to it in some way. Even um, Crimson Flower, the
Yeah.
comic that I was just the artist on, there need to be even if it's the tiniest thing, I need to in some way care about it or relate to it. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to commit to, months and months, if not a year or more, drawing this thing hours and hours and hours a day. Like I don't know how you could do that. I'm sure, plenty of artists do that. They just mindlessly draw comics and it's complete, it's just a job, you
Yeah.
know. This is more than a job to me. It's like it's almost like a therapy in some way. It's like so
Yeah, that's a running theme that I'm noticing with these interviews is people saying that comics art is more than a job. You have to love it, or you have to you have to love it, or you have to need it.
yeah, I don't know how you can just, oh yeah, I kind of like drawing, so I decided I'll do this. And I mean, even as a kid, I loved comics, but it was more of a surface level thing. I just, oh, cool costumes, guys beating each other up, and I like the cartoons and stuff, but I didn't realize comics could be so much more until I was, in like my 20s. So,
What was the comic that
the,
triggered that? That triggered that for you?
um, I can't think of one in particular, but it shifted. There was definitely a shift. Like pretty much the last phase of the superhero. Oh, I'm just following that kind of stuff was the Capullo Batman, like Court of Owls, I think it
Ah,
was called,
yeah, yeah,
around that era.
yeah.
Um, but then shortly after that, that's when it shifted. So whatever was coming out at that time, something changed. Plus, it was me doing my own thing. Like through
Interesting.
doing it, I discovered like, oh wow, I can just do anything with this. This is I can, you know what I mean? I can through doing I feel like I've learned same thing with drawing. I've learned the most through the experience of actually doing it.
Yeah.
Um, rather than studying something else or reading something else. It's especially with drawing, I would say that the most I've discovered or learned is through experimenting and trying different things and like, oh, well, if I do this, let me see if this works. And that's how well, for me at least, that's how I've learned the most.
And when you're
So,
drawing, right? When you're drawing and you're learning stuff, and then you go back and look at some of the artists that you might not have appreciated before, and now you know what they were going for or how hard something that they did is. It's
yeah,
interesting stuff.
definitely.
So tell us about Crimson Flower, which is out this Wednesday, January 20th. So the best.
Yeah,
It's an important date in American history
yeah, yeah. Because Crimson Flower is coming out.
because Crimson Flower is coming out.
It's gonna change the game. Um, okay, so that one in the
When things are different in the future, people will say, "What happened on this date?" And it's
right, the look back in history and oh, that's what changed everything. Um, okay, Crimson Flower. So that one, written by Matt Kindt. I'm gonna give him credit. Uh, drawings by me, and lettering, and colored by Bill Crabtree. Give a shout out to him. Uh, got to shout out the team. And so that one's about a woman who, when she was a kid, she witnessed a brutal uh, murder of her father,
Mhm.
and but she doesn't remember, or she doesn't. It's not clear who it was. She just witnessed this traumatic event that obviously changed her life, and she uses fairy tales to cope with that trauma. And through this series, she's also a pharmaceutical salesperson, and so she's selling these pills. But when the company she works for tells her not to take them, but she secretly is. And when she does that, she's getting these crazy hallucinations of these fairy tale visions,
Mm-hmm.
and she's using that to cope with everything. But as she goes, she's secretly, while she's doing her sales, she's secretly tracking who killed her father. So she's hunting this person down. That's kind of it's like a revenge thing, but a lot weirder than your typical, uh, you know, action movie. So hopefully
Yeah,
that kind of, I'm not the writer, so I did my best of summing that up.
I was looking at it and I was thinking because like and I hate to say that I do this, but um because of the way comics and movies are intertwined now, sometimes I'm reading a comic and I'm thinking, how do they make this into a movie? And I'm
Right.
reading it and I'm like, how do they make this into a movie? It would have to be animated.
Yeah, or like a lot of CGI or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because you do these things where the foreshortening is off the scale. And
Yeah,
you almost have like these Kirby type feet coming out, kicking and everything.
right.
Very, very interesting stuff. I like the way that you do very thick lines and then the rendering, and that's
Thanks.
basically why I said your work reminded me of Crumbs because he's got
Hmm.
that similar style. Um,
Yeah, yeah. A lot
and
of people have said that, so
Crumb,
you're not the only one.
it's good company to be in,
Yeah,
stylistically.
sure.
Content wise, maybe not so much.
Questionable, questionable. Yeah,
But
there's definitely differences in subject matter there.
yeah. And what's it like working with Matt Kindt?
It's great. Um, I, I've
Very
worked with other writers before, and I've had some not so great experiences. But with him, it's great. Like he does his thing, I do my thing, and it, I can ask him anything, and he's usually open to any idea, and it's cool. Like, and we're doing more stuff, so definitely enjoyed working with him.
does he do full script?
Yes,
And
but it's there's room for, it's not super, lengthy, and draw the boot this way, and
yeah,
make her looking like this, and it's kind of, um, it's not super wordy or anything. So there's room for me to kind of get creative.
to play around
Yeah.
and everything. And what does the story itself like? What does it mean for you as a person, as an artist? How does it speak to you?
Mm,
Like,
how does it speak to
what
me?
made you tackle the project, basically?
Well, there when we were first talking about working together, there were three. He had three different ideas, um, and this is the one that just jumped out me the most. It jumped out at me the most because different elements in the story, like it, it's pretty grounded, which I
Hmm.
like. I don't like, super fantasy, which might be surprising because this is very to me it's the perfect mix. Like there are big stretches of reality, or the reality of this world, and then there are glimpses of strange or bizarre, kind of like what's happening here. So it gives me room to kind of jump back to reality, if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
then here and there I can kind of get crazy with these weird things happening. But the story also, I just, something about that, it instantly, I was like, yeah, that's definitely, I want to draw these um, retired assassins, because that's also the people she's hunting.
Yeah.
Um, they're retired assassins. That's why she can't find them. So they're kind of hidden away in these different places, and she has to track them down, sometimes on foot. She's driving through the woods in different issues. Um, or she has to find, like in the first issue, she steals this paperwork on the first guy um, to find his whereabouts. So, what was
It's
where was
a
I going?
it-
I
it's a
forgot where I
it's
was
a
going with that.
it's a medical file.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's a medical file, so she can find where he lives.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It just also it's one, just like I was saying earlier, it's one core protagonist. Like it's whereas a lot of, I think the other ones were, they were all these different, it's jumping from character to character. I always relate more to stories where it's based on one individual and you just kind of focus on their journey and what they're going through. So I don't know, that always speaks to me more,
It's interesting.
compared to Justice League or
Or a team
something like
book
that.
or an ensemble book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not as into that. I don't. It's more distracting. It's like, who am I supposed to like care about, or I don't know.
But
I don't know.
see, that's another thing. Like I said, you have a running theme of isolation, and you can't do
I
that
guess.
if you have an ensemble book, right?
I guess. I guess. Yeah. I don't
Uh,
know. That jumped out at me. That jumped out at me. I don't even remember the other ones. That one just instantly. Yes, that one. Definitely that one.
Very cool. It's
Plus, I liked the whole pill thing and how she would visualize these different things.
mhm.
It kind of goes back to the Kelly Jones, how things have become distorted and strange. I would picture, oh, that would give me a chance to draw different versions of reality or different versions of characters. Like when she, I don't know if you noticed, when she takes it, she kind of transforms into,
Yeah.
that's who she's picturing herself as. And not only is her outfit different, but her hair kind of morphs into this crazy, it just goes wild. And I can get really creative with that. And as the issues go on, it gets um, more wild because I kind of get bored with, this isn't the best thing for comics, but I would say one of my weaknesses is I don't like drawing the same thing over and over. So
Yeah.
I have to make, like, even in the Freak, if you look, he never looks the same. Like if you compare him on page one to the last page, it's like a completely different. It's completely morphed. Like,
You can get away with that though with your style.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of, plus it's gradual, so it's not
Mhm.
like a jarring, I see him once here, turn the page, and he's just completely, but yeah, I don't have like a super realistic style, so it's not like,
Yeah, because all the with your style, what you need to do is you have to kind of put in the signifiers for a particular character. As
mhm,
long as they're there, it's recognizably that character.
yeah, because to me, a character is just, it's just a symbol.
Hmm.
So like you can see them from afar, and they're like that big on the page. As long as you're seeing, you know, Superman's red cape and the blue tights,
Yeah.
and it's a
As
symbol.
long
It's
as the
not
colors are there in the right place, right?
right.
Yeah.
Or you see the freak's bizarre body and it's just this strange shape. Like, yep, that's him.
And it's true of people too. Like there's all these things with like athletes being like, oh, can you recognize their silhouettes? You can.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um. So what is so on a technical level? I'm curious. What is what goes into taking a realistic drawing and distorting it enough to the point
Um,
where it still looks, it still looks good. It still looks like something they would publish, but it also looks like it's breaking the rules.
Mhm.
So I can
Well,
imagine there's little margin of margin of error right there.
yeah, you kind of have to some extent, you have to make them recognizable. And I feel like as long as you, it's kind of what we were just saying. Like it's if you keep those pieces of the symbol, uh, it's still that character. It doesn't matter. Like you can, I I wouldn't want to, uh, some artists, not to knock them, it's just not my thing. At a certain point, you're just replicating. You're
Hmm.
not creating. You're seeing what someone else did. Like you're seeing this Batman, and how many Batmans have you seen like that?
It's Garcia
Thousands.
Lopez. It's basically his Batman. Yeah.
It's great, but where is your Batman? I want to see your Batman. That's why I've always been drawn to those artists. Like to me, that feels like work. That feels like I'm just doing a job. I'm doing this manual thing where I'm copying. Oh, what's his face look like? Oh, okay, looks like that. And you're never gonna get it right. You're just copying. At the end of the day, if you're doing that, you're just gonna be a good replica.
Yeah.
So just do your own thing. Um, so yeah, as long as you pick a character, it doesn't matter who it is. As long as you're getting those key elements, like you're getting the same hair but in your own way. As long as you're getting, to me, there's no limits on how you can approach. You can draw the same thing 100 different ways. It could be the most ordinary thing. It could be a flannel shirt. You could draw that. If you only have one or two ways of drawing something, I'm not interested in your art.
I
That's just
gotcha.
my opinion. Like that's it. Like, don't you get bored? Or like someone will find a style and just it never changes. Which again, I'm not knocking it. That I get it. It's probably better because it's more brand friendly. I guess you could
Yeah.
say like more recognizable. Oh, that's him. I that's her. It,
Yeah.
but
That's something Alan Moore used to say. It still says, if you want to get rich, then do the same thing over and over again. But
yeah,
if you want to be an artist, you have to change.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't do the same thing. I cannot do the same thing. It's like I said, it just feels like work. It feels like I'm just copying, doing the same thing. What's fun about that? I want to try things. I want to take risks. I want to experiment. I want to. That's fun to me. That's the whole point. Like,
Yeah.
or a big part of the point. Like, I don't get it. I don't want to just sit there and do the same thing for 100 pages. Just okay, I'm drawing this guy again. Like mix it up. Like, yeah, he's wearing the same thing, but you can draw that a million different ways. So like try something new.
Tell me about Static.
Okay. Static. That is my next graphic novel that I wrote and drew. Um okay. Not not the best with the elevator pitches. Let me think. Let me think. I actually finished drawing that beginning of 2019. So but
Really?
it's coming out way later. Yeah, because the pandemic it got kind of pushed back, and then
That's
I'm doing the
interesting.
book. Yeah, and then I'm doing the book with Matt Kindt. So then they decided, oh, we're gonna put that out first. So which is fine. So it's just out of order. Um, so I'm having to think.
Yeah, because I'm
Okay,
trying
what
to think of the plot for Static, and I don't know how I would describe it either.
it's very, in some ways, that was kind of a that whole book was me kind of transitioning from the style I did in The Freak to the style I did in Crimson Flower.
Oh, that's
Like it was
interesting.
kind of an in between, and I don't know that was like a growing book, I guess you could say. Like even the story, I think back on certain choices and I'm like knowing what I know now. Maybe I shouldn't even be saying this, but but I just like cringe, like, why did I decide to do that? Like, but it's still cool. It's still maybe I'm just too harsh on my own stuff, but I don't know. It's just
All the artists
knowing,
are.
yeah, it knowing what I know now, definitely would have done a lot of things differently. But okay, so well, the core of the story, I got to stop saying core. The the main theme, I guess, is being stuck or being in a situation that you're stuck in and you have no idea how to break out of it. Like um
Yeah,
that's the
that's the theme.
that's the main thing I'm exploring. And you'd think someone who doesn't feel that way or can't relate to that, they might see a situation and be like, "Oh, well, just get out of it. Like, just stop, just change, just do." And that's the meaning of the title. Static is referring
Mhm.
to a character who is not changing, which I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Like most,
Interesting. We just
that's
talked about that
did we?
regarding drawing and your styles,
Right,
right?
right, 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 right. Well, I mean changing in the sense that, like, I don't know, like when it comes to writing, that's one thing they always say, like, oh, you gotta a character needs to go through a change, or they need to. It's good if at the beginning of a movie, let's say, a character's one way, they have this issue, and at the end they're someone different, or they've changed, they've challenged themselves, or they went through this problem, and now they've grown from that. In this story, the character does. He actually, you have to. I mean, you can
Yeah.
just do a whole book about someone who's just. But that's kind of the core. There I got going with core. My favorite word. That that's the problem with the character. It's kind of the first chapter, the first issue, I guess you could call it. It's just laying out what his life is and kind of showing you how he's stuck in this cycle. It's like a loop that he has no idea how to get out of. Um, but then eventually he does this one thing that kind of sparks this domino effect that makes everything, like the house of cards, just falls,
Hmm.
and then he's has to do what he can with those pieces. So I mean that's kind of speaking about it vaguely, but
And it's also sci-fi, absurd,
yes,
realist,
yeah, it's
kind of horror-ish.
yeah, 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 yeah. Some people have asked, is it the same universe as the Freak? And I'll say no. It's just there are just similarities because I guess it's coming from the same person. So um,
Yeah, when he was carrying a shovel around, I was like, "Wait,
yeah, that could be confusing, I'm
does,
sure,
does,
but
does Matt like drawing shovels?"
I do. I
You
definitely
do.
do. That was just a coincidence. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have put that in there. Maybe it's a little too confusing, but
No, it's okay. I mean, if it does exist in the same universe, if you choose to change your mind later on,
it's actually not. It's
and
actually not the same. It's not
yeah,
the same world, but um, um, yeah, it, it's its own thing. So, but yeah, it's kind of a. Well, I guess I could say this as far as like subject matter, or people are probably wondering, okay, cool, it's about this, but what am I going to expect? It's picture like it's obviously kind of drawing from Frankenstein
yeah,
in obvious ways. I mean, picture there was always the character Igor, I think that's his name,
yeah,
who was the assistant to Dr.
Frankenstein,
Frankenstein.
yeah,
The story, this story, Static, is based around that character, but in its own way. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's this sci-fi world where there are all these different creatures out there, not animals like we know, but different creatures. And the main character Emmett,
yeah.
he is a he's like a bounty hunter for these creatures, but he's doing it while he's working for this eccentric scientist who he's doing something with these creatures. I don't want to give that away because that's kind of
Yeah.
want to leave that a surprise. But
Yeah, I could name a classic book / terrible 90s movie that might, but I'll tell you what it is later.
I wish I wish I knew what you meant. It's not coming to mind.
I'll just tell you later off
Okay,
camera.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
But if that's kind of
Uh,
if that interests you,
yeah.
I don't know how much more I could really say.
And when is it out?
That's out end of April in comic shops, but then in bookstores it's out in May, I think. So if you pre-order it from your comic shop, you can get it at end of April. It's like April 20 something.
It's awesome. Congratulations, Matt.
Thanks.
Congratulations on basically an influx of stuff. I know
Yeah.
it's been a tough year for humanity, but it sounds like career-wise, it's been a good year for you.
Yeah, I can't complain as far as that goes. Like
Yeah.
it's been the best year when it comes to comics for me. Like I got Eisner nominated. I I got published, doing these books. It's going good. It's going good as far as that's concerned.
Good stuff. Congratulations. Anything else you want to mention? Anything else you want to plug?
No, just be on the lookout for Crimson Flower and Static, and The Freak if you haven't read that. And then I've got other stuff on the way too.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you
This was a
very much. I
pleasure.
really appreciate you having me on.
And I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, anytime.
Awesome.